Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? It's already 6 p.m., so I guess we can wait a couple of minutes and start. Um, okay, so I see your comments in this tool. That's great. How's it going? Did you finish your Next.js task? Did you like it? Comparing with bare React? Finished with tears. Back in days when I was learning React, also in Learning Scope School, I've been working with React for like next 2 or 3 years just with React without Next.js. And then when I finally touched Next.js, it was like, wow. It was like, finally I have something that not breaks in every step I touch something that is at least a bit reliable, comparing with the React setup with the I would say different libraries. Yeah. So actually, we will talk today about this too. Let's start. I guess there's also enough time. I guess there will be also a meeting recording. So, hello, my name is Sergey. I'm full stack engineer, and I happy to be here actually. I work mainly with React, its frameworks, and their ecosystem. And this speech was inspired by 3 things that happened to me in a short period of time. So one of my colleagues wanted to create a new React-based web application, and we're considering create React app as an option. On slide, you can see that it's deprecated right now, and you should not use this. Totally not. My another colleague decided to add signals to the Next.js application as they are faster. And during code review, I encountered use effect fetching data in JavaScript file, and like something like on this screen. And you might think, pretty much code I wrote yesterday. So, agenda. First 4 episodes, I'll briefly talk about how we got to the point where we are now, like a bit history observation. In last 3, I will talk about what is T3 stack and how it can be useful. There is some notes. So first one, slides contain a lot of code examples. Take them as just an illustrations of what I'm telling you. If there will be something important, I will highlight that. Next, I will be using real websites as examples. We will discuss many bleeding edge tools that you might want to read more about. All links for that will be right on the slides. as the QR codes. So don't be shy, make photos, or just scan them right away if you find something interesting. Okay, next. T3 app is quite dynamic thing, especially comparing to the deprecated Create React app. So to avoid confusion, instead of live coding, we will do some screenshot reading. It will lower the risk of my failure there because it's safer, and yeah, and it also will allow me to add some extra useful information on some related steps. The complexity of this lecture is advanced. It's not easy topic, but it will be helpful because it will allow you to solve your basic work more efficiently. This should be we should have a recording of that, and all the questions, prepare your questions, and I will answer them at the end of the meeting. I mean, at the end of the presentation. So let's start. This is my first website, by the way. So back in the days when dinosaurs ran over our planet, we had only HTML and CSS. We wanted more dynamics, and JS came along. That's the first task in running Scope School JS course when we was doing the virtual keyboard. It gave us an awesome APIs to build things like that. I'm not sure if someone remember that, but in 2021 we was creating the Piskel clone with Canvas. That was final task on JS course. So it uses JS, Canvas, and HTML and CSS. And we can create something like that now. And finally, we start building SaaS themes, so apps can be used without installing them. SaaS, that's like a term that usually tell you that this is software as a service. So this is a program that can be used in browser without installing it. I used as an example SaaS company from Poland called Nice Advice that provides you a reliable way to get paid legal advices from rated experts. For those who never heard, it's a pretty simple way to get fast and high-quality online advice on any legal issues. Clear interface, fast registration, mobile-friendly, possibility to choose a specialist based on rating and reviews, support for several languages, online chat, PWA mode, and a lot of more. So ask a question, specify the price, choose the lawyer you like, get high-quality consultation, pay with Blick. Just awesome. So everything was fine until these SaaS applications became too complex and began to fall out of sync. On the screen, you can see that, for example, sometimes on the old websites, you can see that it fall out of synchronism. And for example, you paid for something, but it shows you that your data is unpaid. So in 2011-2012, Facebook introduced React, whose task was to fix the web. Ambitious, right? Instead of precise updates of individual nodes, React started replacing parts of page for each update, like a DOM node and its child tree. Queuing these operations, so at the end, displaying the latest state of DOM nodes. Is it optimal? No, but who cares if it's fast enough and solve an issue? So React is just JavaScript. However, you need to build a special, explicit declarative mental model to work with it easily and efficiently. Using imperative or implicit approaches, like signals, for example, goes against the way React creators expect you to write the code, and as a result makes your code unpredictable, not extensible, buggy, difficult to understand, and not suitable to debugging using the analytical approach. Okay, and over these 14 years, this small library that allows you to conveniently conditionally render HTML has become extremely popular. However, React has not become a framework. You still can cook it with solutions from different vendors. Like, that's bright examples. You can like put plus into the comments if you already used something of that during your course or on your pet projects. Yeah, so overall, this flexibility is the strength of React. But as one great philosopher said, with great power comes great responsibility. React evolved, its API changed. So we had initially classes, then hooks, then hooks. Now we are combining hooks with React Server components. So all the ecosystem should be updated accordingly with backwards compatibility. Not all libraries survived this race, because as most of tools we use today are free and created by open source community. So some tools were late with compatibility updates. Some turned out to be hopelessly outdated and just died. Therefore, with each new React evolution, and sometimes with just new major and sometimes with even minor version, 30% of our stack was replaced with a more modern one. Another 30% was just thrown into the rubbish can and totally replaced with different approach. On the screen, you see an article about CSS in JS that was quite popular solution for writing CSS in React, I would say in 2019, 2022. But with React 18, it became of these styled components and CSS in JS is that it injects style to your page, to your styles in the runtime, and with double re-rendering it became like too slow and complex and problematic. And now the only way to use CSS in JS is to use zero runtime CSS in JS, and actually everyone Alvin. So yeah. Okay, let's move on. So, as another great philosopher said, a warm place is never empty. Not everyone was happy with 100% client-side rendering of React by various reasons, and not everyone wanted to hire a team of engineers to generate some static pages. Therefore, in 3 years, in 2015, the first sprouts of framework began to appear. And today we have a situation as follows. Looks a bit complex, right? Actually, this is a diagram from 2023. Now it may be a bit more complex, but the idea is that like React is not enough and you need different tools for different purposes. So like the finishing the React course is just one more step to real programming, and nowadays it's complex to go just with React. Okay, so in 2020, I personally bet on Gatsby.js. We had such a framework these days, and it was like even more popular than NextJS. But sad news, my bet did not win, and Gatsby almost dead right now. I guess there's some legacy applications that can't migrate from it and still exist. Okay, let's move on. So as you see on NPM trends, starting from 2020, Next.js begins continuous growth. Currently, we have something like that. So React is an orange line, and Next.js is blue one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but looks like each fourth React installation is a dependency of Next.js. That's quite a lot. Like Next.js is almost used the same as Redux. So why Next.js? 2 years ago, Dan Abramov, that's a guy a legend who worked in Meta and was a community guy who was like communicating with people, trying to get their thoughts and bring them to Meta team who develop React to reflect the need and make React like convenient for people. So 2 years ago, he finally finished new React docs. And important thing that there is no more recommendation to use bare React or deprecated create React app anymore. We can talk for a long time about the reasons, but in short, start on Next.js, set SSR false, and you will get modern configured React with all the standard kit, and you will save several months on setup and maintenance. As a bonus, you will get 4 types of rendering, routing, localization, kind of, convenient redirection, preloading, image optimization, and so on. And what's important, you will get a more or less stable API. That means like devs, you need less to relearn, and it's not totally open source like Vercel stands behind. However, this last advantage might be a bit controversial. Okay, let's discuss the T3. So Next.js is good, but is it enough? A few years ago, a group of open source engineers decided that React with its kit provided by Next.js is not enough. Life speeds up, technology evolves, but some combinations of tools for solving some problems remain unchanged. So I'm pleased to present to you T3 app. Let's quickly set it up and see what it has. That's actually the screenshot reading part. This is a CLI, but it changed a bit from the last time I done this talk. So I've just kept it as screenshots for our convenience. Okay, so npm create T3 app latest runs a CLI with questionnaire. Let's call our application Hello T3. Next question. What will be using, JavaScript or TypeScript? Let's pick JavaScript. Oops, guessed wrong. Nowadays, TypeScript is not an option. So we will use TypeScript. And we will use Tailwind CSS for styling. Saying yes to tRPC, you can find more about tRPC on their website. In short, this is a way to provide end-to-end type safety. Authentication. Let's choose integrated authentication with NextAuth. This allows you to set up login process through auth providers in an easy way that is actually enough for a lot of projects. If you want more, I personally prefer Clerk. Integration with Clerk, this one, or Auth0 would be very similar. And if you want to replace NextAuth, just install the appropriate lib, change the imports and handler names, the code in the middleware, and remove unnecessary tables from Prisma schema. And that's it. Time to pick ORM tool. ORM gives you an API to communicate with your database. So if you want to use bare SQL, pick none. Both Drizzle and Prisma are great modern tools. Drizzle seems to be faster, but I'm unfamiliar with its API, so picking Prisma as a familiar tool. Pick yes if you want to use latest app router with React Server component support, or pick no to start with Pages router. It's time to choose database. I'm using Postgres hosted on Supabase, but SQLite, MySQL, PlanetScale are also available. Let's not init a repo. And let's allow CLI to install node modules for us. And let's use suggested alias. It helps us to organize imports. Sometimes people use @ symbol, but it is always confusing as packages names often start with that symbol. So it's quite convenient to decouple your project imports and have its own syntax, and packages have this @ symbol in the beginning. And we are done. So from the moment I've created this presentation, they added one more step where you can choose between ESLint plus Prettier for linting and Biome. If you've never heard about Biome, that's another tool that is faster with all the possibilities of ESLint and Prettier. And now, actually, in the moment I was creating this presentation, ESLint plus Prettier was not an option, and they was installed by default. So as you see, almost all parts of template are optional, except Next.js and TypeScript, of course. So even if you need nothing except just bare setup of Next.js, plus you will get the Next.js plus TypeScript with the config, plus configured linters and environment variables. So that's the setup for a full stack application, but you can decouple everything that is full stack and get something valuable yet. Let's briefly take a look at what we got. We have there a list of commands to run Postgres locally and run initial migration. I guess what is Postgres, what is migration, how to set it up, you will learn on Next.js course that will be on the learning scope soon. We have pnpm dev to run our this one, to run our NextJS app, and we have git init to make initial commit. Now we will skip database related part and try our app using pnpm dev. So running pnpm dev give us an error. Let's check it. If we will look closely, we will see a user-friendly error telling us that our environment variables are not set. This package, T3 OSS env NextJS, helps us with that. And actually what it do, it validates our environment variables before running our app and do multiple things. It checks if they are declared with correct values and may cares these values for us. It will allow us to import our envs from env.js file, making them being typed correctly. And it notify us if we use server-only variable on a client. You probably faced the issues with envs when you import them from process env and you say hey, this should be a string, and TypeScript tells you, I have no idea what's that. It may be undefined now, number. So and you, okay, I will need to do typecast, and you write as string. So with T3 env check, you don't need to do this because your app will not be run. You will not be able to run developer server if Zod validation do not check. If Zod validation check your environment variables and find missing one or incorrect one. So as we can see, this is env file, and there is 2 environment variables that are required but missing a value. So let's add some values and try again. And it works. We can see that our solution also integrated and works. Like on the screenshots, I'm pressing the sign in and I see the login screen with an integration to Discord auth. You need, so for your application, you will need just to set up your Discord app to get proper envs and set up database for further steps. But for now, you get an application with integrated authentication from scratch. You should do nothing. It already works. You need just to add 2 envs and update your database things. Okay, let's take a quick look at what we get out of a box. So we have properly integrated and typed Tailwind CSS config. We have properly and strictly configured TS config. We have best and strict ESLint config for NextJS app. From my perspective, there are some rules that are not really necessary, and I'm manually disabling them. Some kinds of prefer knowledge coalescing to or condition, because for example, sometimes we want to coalesce empty strings to if we have empty string, we want to do something, but knowledge coalescing will allow us to keep empty string, and this ESLint rule will push us to update this so it can provide bugs. So you have the basics that are community driven, configured for you, ready to use, that are great, but you can make it better by your taste. And we also have a pre-tier with base rules configured for us. Okay, let's check Prisma. So Prisma is just an ORM that allow us to communicate with our database. So in real world, we need some kind of actually, you have, as a full stack developer, multiple options. If you are doing some kind of backend stuff using NextJS or Fastify or Express, people use we use TypeORM. That's another option. But for front end, we usually use Prisma because it's quite cool. I don't know, popular, have a lot of docs and examples and easy to use, very intuitive. So in this Prisma, from this CLI template, we already have ready to use tables for user authentication management, tokens, and so on. So you even don't need to create that manually. It's already ready, configured. You need just to use this. You need to just set up, deploy your database and start using that, and it will be there. It will be managed for you. We have PostgreSQL integration in place. And we have an example table for posts creation. Okay, let's open app files. So we have in pages folder, we have lower-app. You're probably already familiar with this file. We usually use it for common configs like creation of wrappers, providers, configuring styles, and so on. And on the right, we have index.ts file that stands for a homepage. Interesting thing there is that this file contains 0 handwritten types. Like there is no like type post or something like that. There is no type assertion, 0. However, this code is 100% typed. On the middle of the screen, you can see the types for hello variable that we get as a result of use query invocation. And if you use React Query, you see that syntax is a bit different. We will talk about it later. If we will open API folders, we have API folders. You know what API folder states for API routes. That actually part that works with tRPC and make our app full stack. This is an entry point to the backend part of our framework. And let's take a look on it. So on the left, we have route.ts. This is quite small. It exposes a config from server auth.ts for next auth, like for the escort and this stuff. And in this server auth.ts, you can extend the providers. So for example, in this default one, we have just Discord, but you can set up like any Google, GitHub, any like Twitter. So everyone who allows it. And you can update database integration because the database integration is set up also there. And on the right, we have a tRPC root file that is used to expand tRPC router. So what is tRPC there? tRPC is a way for the server and the client to interop and share data and type definitions. On the slide, you can see the full backend to frontend flow. And you can see that tRPC leaves an integration level between gateway API and the client. So like when we do fetch request, the response type is always unknown because we don't know if it if we have like decoupled backend, because we don't know if the backend developer changed something, if the response is successful, or like everything can happen. With tRPC, it gives us a way to connect backend and frontend and say that the response from the backend have that shape because of the tools we use. So Prisma gives you a response that is typed, and tRPC with React Query make it possible to share it to the front end. So, okay, looking into the code, we have a tRPC TS file where you can set up context, middlewares for authentication, or for example, error logging, and procedures. This file is created and set up for you, so you don't need to edit it until you need to change something. And but you can start adding or removing endpoints, and you don't need to touch that. Okay, next. So root TS aggregates all your tRPC routers that you declare in routers folder. And on the right, we can see the file in router folder called post.ts that was called on the home page on the slide before I shown. So you can see hello procedure, actually hello endpoint, but in tRPC it calls procedure. And you can see that it receives text variable that is validated with Zod to be a string, and it returns a string. Below we can see another procedure called create, and this one is protected procedure that a part of the main checks that a part of the main action, like creating the post, it also checks in middleware if a user is authenticated and will throw error if not. And it's everything set up for you, like just from the CLI command. You just start using that, and that's it. So as a result, we have that level of DX. I will give you a moment to just look. So usually people need a couple of minutes to understand what's going on there, and then aha moment comes. But we probably don't have like so much time, so I will briefly explain. So on the left we have a server, and on the right we have a client. And changing code on the server automatically gives us an error on the client as types are referenced. It called end-to-end type safety. And thanks to the integration with React Query, tRPC have like a package that wraps React Query and like gives you a bit narrowed API, but with extra features. And thanks to this integration, this is actually all the logic is needed to query data on the front end. And saying all the logic, I mean handling of error states, handling of race conditions, error handling and tRPC errors with improved error shapes. Auto-batching of requests. On the slide, you can see that in application Nice Advice, there is 3 requests: get user, get requested reviews, and get filtered questions. And as you can see, they are batched into one request. So you don't have like waterfall of the requests and a latency. You don't have inconsistent UI. It just queried and returned to you as one batch. Okay, you have also logger of the requests in your console. With NextJS features, you have an opportunity to prefetch data, so the request will be sent at the moment user hit the URL. That is much earlier than use effect time. You can also prefetch data in build time, so to generate static pages. So useQuery will be just a way to pick already fetched data and refetch if needed. Oh, and you can also tell useQuery to not to refetch data. For example, if you get some kind of dictionaries, like the list of, I don't know, you get enums, or you get the list of categories or some kind of tags, something that is changed not quite frequently. So it looks like definitely much better than this big use effect that I mentioned in the beginning, right? Okay, let's move on. Happy to introduce you T3 Turbo. This is a starter template that allows you to manage multiple apps in monorepo. We will not dig deeper its advanced content and leaving it as homework, not official, but a small overview. So what's the problem it solves? Usually when you have multiple applications that should have like the same components, the same configs, the same database, you can face a challenge with synchronizing them. So for example, if you have 5 applications that use the same database and you use Prisma with them, you will need to copy your Prisma schema every time you change it. To each of 5 repos, you need to regenerate Prisma client, and you need to like create new build with new schema, or it will be failed. The same thing if you have 2 similar buttons that should be similar in both projects. You have 2 ways. You can create a package and install this button as a package. If you have monorepo, it will be also kind of package, but automatically managed. So great thing when you need it. And on the left, we have apps folder that contain NextJS application and Expo application. Expo, that's React Native, so we can use it for any React app, even for React Native one. On the right, we see tooling folder. And as I said, we want our configs to be shared between all the apps to be consistent. So that's the real example. Tools, all the configs are in one place, and they are shared between apps. And if, for example, your application has specific rules for something, these configs can be extended with your rules, in the each app level. These themes make your code style solid. Okay, packages. There we can see that server part with tRPC is moved from the T3 app to the packages and shared again between all the apps in monorepo. Same with auth configs, db configs, and zod schemas. Well, benefits are obvious, like on the previous slide. And people who try to manage multiple repos and use like the same Prisma schema, as I said, are happy to not to do manual synchronization with this stuff. We also have there a UI folder in packages, and that's kind of design system package. If you're not familiar with a term in design system, for me it came like a year, like 2.5 years ago. Like previously we just created a components folder and was maintaining everything there, like putting million files, and there was different things. Now people prefer to decouple that into the separate repo. Like we have component repo with storybook and all the stuff, and we just install it as a package into our NextJS repo, and we use these components in our repo, in our project, and maintain them in a separate place. And that's great. Everything is fine, but to be able to make changes, you need to create a PR for your design system. You need to get the preview or canary release for your design system. You need to create PR in your web application with this preview. You need to like do this stuff to link them, and if everything is fine, then you can like release new version of design system and then install new version in web and then release web. That's complex. But in monorepo, you don't need to do this. You have just the design system, and it's already available for your web application. So you just create the new PR, and everything is fine. No linking, no canary based on previews, nothing. Just push your changes, and it works. Okay, that's a turbo repo, and this is a monorepo management tool. It's pre-configured and covers more cases that you may imagine. Like, as I remember, the only thing I changed there for my applications was the envs, because you need to define new envs there. Okay, we are almost there. So you would say, okay, Sergey, let's imagine that our application is a bit more complex than a to-do list. What about documentation for your fancy backend? Happy to introduce you tRPC Drift. It's currently in beta, but I have an access. So this tool is to track your tRPC state, and it giving you information about list of existing procedures and detailed information about each one. Information about commits and diffs they provided to your schemas and procedures. Information about PRs that introduce changes. And it also have GitHub integration, notifying any responsible to code review person about schema changes with a convenient way to see diffs. So for example, your team lead want to be sure that you, as a junior guy, will not expose the user password from the database to the client. And like he checks that in this div, there is no password, like all the necessary fields. So he says, great work, let's merge this. Okay, that was the last slide. So top 3 questions that usually asked about things I shared today. Is this T3 app production ready? Yes, nice advice. The app for paid legal advices in Poland created fully with T3 app and a lot of more applications, obviously. Is T3 app fast? Front-end as fast as NextJS. Backend as fast as AWS Lambda. And actually as slow as AWS Lambda, because like the next Vercel is the AWS wrapper, actually. Next.js plus lambdas means no WebSocket? Yes, that's kind of limitation, but you can use third-party solutions like Pusher or add, for example, WebSocket real-time chat in your app in a day. Like, there's actually more solutions, or you can create your like WebSocket solution just to decouple that from the like to not to make this WebSocket part of the application as part of the web application, like separate app. Yeah. And that's it. On the final slide, you can see some useful links. Thank you. And now I think it's question time. So, ready to answer. I have some magic light from the window. Great question. So the question is, in my opinion, Biomare ready to fully replace ESLint? I did not dig deep into that question, and I didn't check the difference, but I've already run some pet applications to try some things with Biomare, and I don't see any issues with that. I mean, it checks the styling, it do its job. So yeah, I mean, that's a tool that would be mostly great for pet projects. For the tiny config, we need to check the API. But for now, like, I'm using it and it's fine. When I was doing this conversation, this Tech Talk live, I mean, offline, I had an interesting question about if like tRPC is so great, what is its like downsides? And the main downside of that is that this tRPC thing with this end-to-end type safety can be used only if your front end and back end using TypeScript. So if you use .NET, C, Sharp, or Python on the back end, that would not be so good, so beneficial, because you would not be able to infer types. But it really shine in NextJS, because Prisma gives you types. You can infer them and share to your front end. And yeah, so the limitation there is having backend and front end on the TypeScript. Not in monorepo. I mean, you can use not full stack frameworks. It can be decoupled. It would be a bit different config, not so smooth, but you still would be able to get end-to-end type safety. And the only alternative for tRPC is like type generation with commitment from one place to another place, like GraphQL, something like that. Okay, so waiting for 1 more minute. If no one will have questions, we will finish that. Yeah, we was discussing this lecture with admin of the course, and we had thought that it can be too much for the students because this is like a lot of things that was told there are like maybe too early for people who learn just React, but at least everyone who watched that would be able to set up NextJS application in a proper way without losing time on configuring linters, on configuring NVS check with the latest like Tailwind, with and actually with proper folder structure. That's actually a lot, because from my experience nowadays, a very few people know how to set up project properly, even like senior developers. Okay, so no more questions. If you have any other questions, you can always join our Telegram channel about React, where all the people who finished the React course chatting, exploring job opportunities, and just discussing things and sharing the info. And for now, this is it. Thank you. See you. Bye.